And here I'm probably cheating on the third turn of the Thunderbolt scenario. This is the final scenario for the game. I'm a little short, although there's an extra one. The Etruria accounts for 2 provinces right now, always in this game. I'm just 1 province short of a Hannibal victory, I think. The part that I'm cheating about is, okay, I had to have a dictator again. That has to be Fabian again. He's my only choice. I'm allowed a master of horse and buggy. Well, I have someone kicking around in a 400 level who's alive, who's not in the scenario, but to me, because of his military capability, etc., and this is the other Scipio brother, I can't remember his name, Publius and I don't remember. Anyway, it's probably actually is a compendium of all the people here. Cornelius Scipio, right? Yeah. Looked like a CA, which if I had seen CN, I would have known that. Yeah, it's CN. Okay. If I had noticed that, if my eyes were decent. Anyway, I put him as Master of Horse. The guy who's supposed to be Master of Horse is gone. I don't know, how I'm supposed to use this guy. He obviously only would be alive during this scenario. I think he's in Spain at this point, and that's why it would be kind of hard for him to actually be here. But what the hell? The Romans need the help they can get. It's not a lot of help. He's about equivalent to the other guy who just died, Rufius. Almost exactly the same. You can see I don't have a lot of chips for anyone. The Romans in this era suck overall. Fabius is the only one who has a bunch of chips, and he sucks in combat. So I didn't want to make him a dictator without a Master of Horse. There's no rules of who I can make Master of Horse. And I did the recoveries, etc. And I guess we're ready to rock. What positions do we have? Well, Council 1, he got 3 here. Council 1's up here sieging. That got the Field Council. The Rome Council has no army, just like the dictator. Council 2, I made a pro-council. That's the Albinus, who is the pro-council for this year. It's like they assign one. The fixed characters, I don't know how necessary that is. It's like, why divert the game from its normal rules for this? I don't know. But to some extent, it may be to try to allow Fabius to always be dictator or something along those lines. Of course, we have our urban legions still, and who haven't we had? Yeah, I think we covered all the troops. Hannibal has to make his stab for victory. The Bomilcar chit comes up. He ends up laying siege to Armenium. Then Hannibal gets an activity. He marches on against whoever, Albinius here. Albinius falls back into a city successfully. It would have been nice to get that kill. Maybe not the whole unit. It's been built up, actually, to full strength, the 1 legion there. That actually shouldn't be a proconsul. That should be a praetor. There's actually a value to that because I have 2 praetor markers because of the urban legion. So I'm going to swap that out. That gives me a little bit more flexibility. But anyway, after seeing that, Hannibal makes a big 17 attrition point march down to Capua, and there's really nothing that can be done about it. The only thing that could be done was this guy could have jumped out, or the urban legions could have jumped out. The Romans don't have enough troops to face things. That 17 points ended up, I think I was around 60, ended up costing me 4 strength points of units, and that's it. So you can make these massive relocations of force without a lot of trouble. And now that sets it up so that Capua is likely to fall. If that falls, I don't win automatically or anything, but I'm in a much, much stronger position in terms of facing the Romans. So I'm expecting the Romans to try to raise up an army to get Hannibal out of there. The other alternative is to try to win things up here, but I just don't think that there's enough time. You know, even if I could win the battles against this massive force of Carthaginian leaders, some of which may end up being dispatched. See, there's a cost to this. But some of them, if I don't particularly want to undertake this siege or something else, I can dispatch over to Hannibal. Right now, he's a little vulnerable without any of his buddies. Why is that vulnerable? Because each of those buddies adds one, at least a goodly number of them do, due to their decent combat tactical ability. So they're adding to his battlefield ability as long as he has them. But he's pretty damn good on his own. Okay, so I get Mr. Magoo. And he's going to try to take the city by treachery. He doesn't have the forces to take it on any other way. This had been reinforced a little before he laid his siege. In order to do so, we look at his campaign rating, which is a 5. In the middle there. He ends up expending his point of guile. He has to spend one to try this. The Romans have 1 point of guile, which cancels that out. So the defensive factor of the cities, I think, is 4 in this one. Yeah, all medium cities have a 4. So I'm going to need an 8 or better. And there really is nothing else to help me here. So an 8 or a 9, I take this city. It's really all I can do. And I don't get that. That's a shame, but, you know, I feel like there's not a whole hell of a lot I can do here unless I'm attacked by something. I got all these leaders, but they're not doing me any good right now. Hannibal successfully took Capua at this point. That was really the next action. He did an assault, lost a quarter of his army, but hey, he's currently winning right now. And it's going to be really tough for the Romans to take things back. That also, because it's a medium, or actually a large city, had a big 7 factors. That's why he couldn't try to force it to surrender. But because he did an assault, he was able to affect things like Campania's loyalty. So it's no longer really a pro-Roman area. They don't own the cities there anymore, for whatever that matters. Carthage doesn't own them either. But if they took some of the mediums, if they took both of them, they could swing it over. I'm probably going to leave some troops back in Capua, which is going to further open up possibilities for the Romans to go campaign against Hannibal himself. But in terms of winning the scenario, it looks almost impossible. I don't think killing Hannibal ends the scenario, unlike killing Pyrrhus. And there are other Carthaginians who would have taken his place, but obviously getting rid of a military genius would be a fantastic outcome for Rome overall. All right. So I got 2 Praetor picks in a row. The first one, I raised up these guys from disorganized. The second one, well, I could recover them fully, but then I wouldn't have anything I could do with them. The question is, what the hell could I do with them that could possibly affect anything? Well, one thing is I could try to relieve this city. That would be pretty great, but it's not going to do it. You know, a disorganized force of a single Roman legion, a single double Roman legion, isn't going to be able to take me out of this. And I mean, essentially, I should be just surrendering at this point. Rome has no chance that I can think of, except perhaps by taking Capua out. And that's what I think I'm going to do. I'm going to try to make a march down to lay siege to Capua. Of course, Hannibal's going to come out and kick my ass, but that's all I can think of. I thought of something better. I moved him to Rome. He took a loss moving there due to the attrition. Again, 13 on the attrition level. Not a lot of troops here, so that only ended up one strength point. Attrition really isn't that big a deal. You're spending units and getting rid of them, but you know, it feels so easy to just take those losses to me. Compare this with my same feeling, which you haven't seen me play, and I should really get this to the table sometime soon. One of the Zucker games, say Napoleon at Bay, which is sort of the simplest of them that I have, where you're not even spending strength points necessarily, although you would if you don't spend operations to move. But you're spending this operations pool. So, you know, if you don't spend operations, you have like a 50-50 chance, I think, of losing a strength point with little moves. And if you spend operations, you're eating up your ability to move effectively, your supplies for the, you know, for attrition, for other reasons and such not. And I just find myself frozen in those games in terms of not being able to actually do anything because of the operational system. Whereas with this one, I can afford losing a unit or two. I've got to do this. It seems so clear to me. I don't know what it is with those games, but they really like create this mental block of inability for me to actually take action. That was kind of a waste. So Hannibal Gisco got a siege action. He tried treachery, failed. A couple of siege attrition tables. Bad luck for everybody. I mean, it's just ugly losing. The amount of troops that you lose. You can see the Romans are slowly decreasing with the force they have here. Then I got a Hannibal action, and that's what I'm grumping about here. I don't know what I wanted to do with him particularly, but I said, okay, I'll try to build some troops. Well, Gaul, because it produces troops other ways, doesn't give me shit. The only thing that gave me anything was Etruria, and that didn't give a hell of a lot either. In this scenario, you're not going to get troops. Brutium, you'd get them, but you get only 2 troops, 2 infantry for Gaul. I'm using these guys. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to use the Ligurians for this. I'm not going to look it up. I'm out of Ligurians anyway in my force pool, so the effect is the same, or in my forces. And then Hannibal failed in his continuation. What might have been interesting was to lay siege to Rome. Rome right now isn't that powerful. There is a legion in there, but now treachery won't work on Rome, blah, blah, blah. And leaving Capua, that might actually allow the Romans a chance at victory. They've got a free army up here that maybe could have marched down and done something. I could leave a garrison there, but Hannibal's force isn't very powerful. So it's kind of a, maybe I'm for the best not doing anything at all. One thing I would have probably tried is hitting some of these Campania cities in order to try to swing it over. But again, I'm probably safer off being in Capua. Pressed on a little more, got another attrition result, didn't really have any effect. Nothing else is really having effect. I did play out, the dictator got his action, another action, and he raised up some more forces. Now, as far as I can tell, he's forbidden from leaving Rome because he took this master of horse, which is kind of a shame because the commanders I have in Rome right now, I have, it wasn't this one, it was this one. He added a new double legion here, which is given to the Rome Council. I have a praetor there, and I have possibly the urban praetor. But the problem is I've used one of my 2 Rome Council markers. If I do something else, I could strike down and lay siege to Hannibal, but that's not going to do me any good. Maybe a victory here would. That's about the limit of what I could possibly do of any value at this point. And I've only got 1 action by the dictator as well, but he can't come out and campaign as far as I can tell. So I think my chance of anything significant happening is pretty close to nil. And the final chit pull was the Rome Council. He marched up. I had to go it alone with Army Group 4 here, because otherwise any other configuration that took more armies, the dictator would be left with less armies than him, which is not acceptable. Therefore, we ended up in a fight, lost 25 to 15%. I didn't calculate out all the losses. I started doing it, but then I realized it really doesn't matter. It's just a matter of how well does Carthage win. Do they win with 7 territories and Capua, or with 6 territories in Capua? If it's a major victory, Umbria would move here. We probably would not have a devastation attempt on Umbria, just because I think that 4th army, I don't know, let's see, 10, 21, 32, 44. It's not going to get wiped out so far that it won't have 25 strength points. So even though the Romans or the Carthaginians have been sitting here now, I think maybe they were sitting there long enough they could have done a devastation earlier. This army also would have an opportunity. No, it's too small. So it's a Carthaginian victory. This is a tough scenario for I think Rome to win. I'm not quite sure what to do. The Fabian strategy, if you start from the very beginning of trying to avoid combat with Hannibal, that might help you, force him to actually siege and devastate provinces to try to swing them to their side. The more combat you get into with him, the more likely he's just going to, kick your ass and get the diplomacy that he needs. But I think if you don't manage to stop him anywhere, he's still going to be able to get the points, at least enough provinces to grab Capua and get the victory. I'm not absolutely positive about that. He may have to split up his forces and then he'd be a little weaker. Certainly the way I played it, it looked almost impossible. This is the end of my Rise of the Roman Republic vids, but I've been tossing back and forth whether or not I'm going to do Carthage right away, and I think not right away, but I think what I want to do is keep going as I have been, because I mostly know the rules to the system. I kind of enjoy playing one of these and playing something else in between each scenario. I may change my mind partway through Carthage and just say, well, I'm not going to play them all. But the review for the series and the family as a whole is going to go on Carthage, because those are the only two games there are. It's not, it's not like facing something like CWB where I just have tons and tons of games in this series running across, or the Musket and Pike, or Great Battles of History. Each game really is its own standalone thing. So I think Carthage looks similar enough to this that I feel comfortable reviewing them as a joint venture, kind of like I did with the Moments in History ones, Fields of Glory and A Famous Victory.